And when I heard those shocking words, I felt sick to my stomach. I'm going to show you something that touched me deeply when I heard it.
So first of all, I sent you an invitation to my funeral. The address is included as well, because I can no longer afford my own funeral.
This chancellor spits in the face of cancer patients. That's all he did there. For this statement, Friedrich Merz should immediately fire Bärbel. She accuses him of using inhumane methods. At the same time, the situation is exploding. We are now in the election campaign. Several daily newspapers are already reporting this. But out of fear of the AfD, people don't know how to position themselves, and that's what we're going to take a look at in this video today. And I tell you, it's going to be extremely exciting and explosive. If you would support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Let's get into the hype.
I think that's cynical, inhumane, and that's why we have to stand up against it. Thank you very much.
And those should have actually been the last words from Bärbel. Anyone who accuses this chancellor of using inhumane means should definitely be dismissed immediately. And the chancellor should assert the authority to set policy guidelines in order to create stability. That's actually what the internal record says. What will come of this, none of us knows yet. In any case, several newspapers are now leading the way. Welt News, Frankfurter Allgemeine and Der Spiegel are saying that yesterday on May 1st, the election campaign officially started here in Germany, and now everyone is trying to get votes on their side somehow. Reforms will definitely have to be put on hold for now. I also have to say, yes, the CDU doesn't want to vote for them anyway. Not even with the new health insurance law. This emerges, by the way. This comes from an internal inquiry from the CDU, where Kretschmann commented and made it very clear, no, we in the CDU will not support it like this. Then we're done for.
If some individuals dream of abolishing May 1st as a holiday, all I can say is, keep dreaming, but not with us. We will not allow this frontal attack on social peace in our country.
And just with this statement alone, Friedrich Merz shouldn't fire Bärbel on Monday. Actually, they should hand in their resignation themselves because, let's be honest, things definitely can't go on like this. Out of sheer fear and panic over the AfD, this country has become completely ungovernable. And you could tell no matter what you do now, the votes just keep going down. And at the center, minority government. Now, even in the CDU, they're already saying that probably won't work. Because now the SPD dictates to the CDU that they can look for majorities, but only with the left, the Greens, and the SPD. Anything else would be off the table for generating a majority in the Bundestag. And yes, what does the CDU say? Small and medium-sized businesses say, we don't care at all who votes with us in the future. And they've probably already found the successor to Friedrich Merz.
The welfare state is portrayed as a huge problem, as a nice gesture that we should finally do without, as a burden the country can no longer afford.
And in a way, the CDU is also right about that. This afternoon, there will be another video on the topic, troop withdrawal from Germany. So, the US will withdraw troops from Germany and at the same time push ahead with punitive tariffs against our automotive industry. That means more tariffs than we actually paid before. And yes, the welfare state, if there are even more profit declines now at VW, Mercedes and BMW, then the punitive tariffs and the welfare state are simply no longer sustainable because we're spending more money than the working, productive part of society can even generate. And if you don't go the route of a wealth tax, which even Markus Söder is now poking holes in, saying it absolutely needs to be pushed forward, I can tell you this, it's not going to work because the middle class in the CDU said, no, we won't allow that. Definitely not. That means you really don't have to worry so much that these changes, like with health insurance and so on, will actually go through. However, a report from Bild shows what the situation in Germany is really like between the politicians and the committees. Since last week, everyone is just trying to survive.
For weeks now, we've been hearing the big problem with the German economy is that people are too lazy and don't work enough.
And on the other hand, illnesses, burnout, cancer, everything you get from stress are skyrocketing. The number of cases is now Besorgnis. It's alarming that people here simply don't want to go along with this change anymore, which is something the SPD is now also realizing at the same time. So even though they had a nice conversation with the group just the day before yesterday, attacks are now coming from all sides within the SPD. Not just Merz, Klingbeil and Baas are going after this chancellor. No, now even CDU party insiders like Dobrindt, Reichweiter, Böcker and others. I'm not going to list them all for you because there's really so much drama going on there. And now they're saying either the vote of confidence and you somehow get everyone united behind you, or there have to be new elections here in Germany. That's why I still think it's May 6th. We'll look at the Bundestag's agenda at 2 p.m. to see what happens. Either the SPD will go along with it. Either they'll be dismissed, there will be a minority government, or there will be a vote of confidence. But something will happen on that date. And for those who don't know, make sure to check the agenda for the plenary session during this time.
I'm telling you, anyone who talks about the hard-working people in this country like that hasn't understood what it's all about. The problem in Germany isn't that people are too lazy. The problem is, and a colleague from IG Metall in Baden-Württemberg just told me this, he was sitting there and said, I'd love to work 40 hours, but the orders just aren't there.
And the SPD is doing everything to make it decline even further. There's no return to nuclear energy, even though it's the cheapest energy. By the way, my main sponsor, my new one, has a very explosive video coming out next week about how close we actually are to a brownout right now. And quote, solar power is clogging up the grids, that they are on the verge of collapsing and that you have to intervene up to 10 times a day just to keep the grid stable at all. But more on that next week, because the energy situation is so extremely tense that businesses can't even get planning certainty anymore. Some experts are asking, please turn off your photovoltaic systems, otherwise things won't work.
I was reduced to 30 hours. That's the reality. That has nothing to do with the hard-working people, and you shouldn't judge them. We can be glad that we have hard-working employees in this country, and politicians shouldn't look down on them or insult them.
That's why they want to take away their health insurance. You can see this is absolutely brutal federal election campaigning. This time they want to be prepared. They know what's coming next week. They know that this government is completely knocked out. That's why they're going into election campaigning now. And I'll show you something that touched me deeply when I heard it. Quote,
So first of all, I sent you an invitation to my funeral. The address is included as well. Since I can no longer afford my own funeral.
by the way, I just removed the name earlier, but how intense must it be to confront a chancellor and say, you know what, I'm inviting you to my funeral because I can't even afford it anymore. Maybe you'll come in, and what does he do? Listen to the conversation and see how vile, treacherous and cold-hearted this person reacts to it.
Unfortunately, it's skin cancer in stage 4, and we're being denied preventive care. According to the Medical Association, health insurance companies and experts, it will cost us millions more than what preventive care actually costs. That's just one part of this healthcare system.
And when I heard these shocking words, I felt sick to my stomach. How people, yes, even ask the Chancellor something like that, and he reacts so incredibly coldly. I'll go ahead and spoil it. When people stand up on an open stage and say, hey, I have cancer, that takes a huge amount of courage, and I know what I'm talking about. And then also say at the same time, but why are you doing something like that? These people who are there, they don't get in unless they are somehow close to a political party. They don't want any critical questions. That's why they intervene immediately. There's no question about it.
It's just a shame. The question is why these austerity measures are being implemented so drastically for us citizens, while you, for example, tried to have another 64,000 euros a year paid into your account. Additionally, it's proven, I could also tell you about it, so please ask your question. Yes, why? Why are cuts being made to us, but not to politicians?
So, for those who didn't notice, this is very, very important. Dobrindt stopped it. Dobrindt went to the Chancellor and told him, no, that's not possible. You get almost 70,000 euros, mind you, per month, and that's just not possible. So we urgently need to save money, and that's why it was put on hold. That's what I just explained to you earlier, why this scandal is happening. That means the Chancellor knows exactly that he wanted to raise his salary so drastically. At the same time, the CDU also said we will not forgo the parliamentary pay raise. Meanwhile, the SPD has now submitted a motion to urgently suspend this parliamentary pay raise for the time being. Or rather, that it must be frozen because we can no longer justify it to the citizens. That our parliamentary pay is going up, but real wages here in Germany are not. And that we are facing the threat of mass unemployment. Just to put that briefly back into context, I know only 2,500 people have seen the video, so let's continue.
Maybe I can say something about the last point you mentioned. At no point did anyone consider raising the salaries of the members of the federal government. At no point, not even by me. Everything else is a false claim, and I would simply appreciate it if you didn't just repeat that without checking.
Hey, the lady has terminal cancer. Hey, the lady can't afford her own funeral anymore. Hey, this lady knows when she's going to die. Why? Because she can't afford her medical expenses anymore. That was taken out of context. And the Chancellor, hey, are you out of your mind? What's wrong with you? So, can you maybe just represent the whole thing correctly for once? So the right kind of wrong from the CDU. Nobody wanted this here. Nobody intended to create mass unemployment. Nobody intended to build a wall. Nobody wanted to take all your money away from you. Nobody here in Germany intends to just make you bitterly poor so I can fill my own pockets. Nobody planned any of this. When you spit in the face of someone that's sick like this Chancellor did, yes, when you treat someone like that, then you're affecting every single person, every person who has cancer, tumors, or serious illnesses. Especially because we've all read it. Or is the entire press lying now and only the Chancellor is telling the truth? The habitual liar told the truth this time.
But that's really just pure protection of vested interests. And that's also the rhetoric. And it immediately turns into finger pointing. And not just towards the companies, but also towards their own government members, the cabinet members, yes.
And of course towards their own citizens. The fact is, how can you govern so out of touch with reality? And let me stress this, greed. They aren't focused on anything else anymore. When the SPD is there and says they are blocking all reforms, and at the same time this Chancellor spits in the face of cancer patients. He didn't do anything else there, and I really have to say, this country has a huge problem. This country has such a massive problem that I have to ask, who actually still goes to work voluntarily here? Actually, people should be advised right away to quit their jobs, stay at home, and do nothing more for this state. Because every day you get up and go to work, you're actually partly responsible for this Chancellor getting even a single euro from you. To keep this whole cycle alive, better a horrible end than horror without end. And of course, I know that nobody can just quit their job and say, I'm not going to work anymore. That was never the point of all this. That's not what I'm trying to provoke either. I just mean at some point the people have to stand up and say, this is the point and we won't go any further. Again, that you spit in sick people's faces like that, not, Oh, maybe I can help you somehow. Is there a way? Do we have a doctor? Just like we do here in the community with the people who also send me an email. With many people, by the way, I've managed it with 2 people so far. Once a landlord from a village contacted me, and at the same time someone who was urgently looking for a rental apartment. I was able to connect them that way. No, this chancellor spits on people, stands there, no, even though we all know that he's lying through and through. Lying.